Our next musician is one of those musicians who changes the way that you listen to music, and all modern banjo players have followed the trail that he has blazed. Please welcome Tony Trischka's Earl Jam.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, folks. Thank you. How's everybody doing out there? Did you survive the deluge? I hope. Well, this show's mostly, well, it's in fact all a tribute to Earl Scruggs. January 6th upcoming would have been his 100th birthday. And so we're doing tunes from throughout his career, starting with the first tune he played in the three-finger style that really helped create the sound of bluegrass ultimately. He started doing this when he was about 9 years old. He was playing in a two-finger style that sounded kind of like this, a tune called Reuben. He was just sitting around his house in Flint Hill, North Carolina, doing something kind of like this. And then he said it was like in the movies. Suddenly that third finger got in there, and suddenly he was playing this three-finger style that he ultimately called Scruggs style. He himself considered it to be Scruggs style. So I'm going to play the three-finger version of Reuben, and then we'll bring out the band. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to bring out the band right now, the rest of Earl Jam. Come on, folks. That's Mr. Nate Lee over there on the fiddle, all the way from the great state of Rhode Island. Hey. From Atlanta, Georgia, currently from the great bluegrass state of Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Michael Daves. Also from the great state of Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Jared Engel on bass. At a very young age, around the age of 20 or 21 thereabouts, Earl Scruggs joined Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys in October of 1945. And the very first recording he ever made was with Bill Monroe in 1945. And the tune that he played was Heavy Traffic Ahead. We're going to do that for you right now.
Saturday night when no work is done, with no darn music up on the run. Heavy traffic ahead, heavy traffic ahead. Got to ramble, ramble.
Thank you, folks. All right, well, right around 1949, Flatt and Scruggs left Bill Monroe, and he was none too happy about that. If you had Flatt and Scruggs in your band, you wouldn't be happy if they left you either. And so there was an enmity that lasted for a few years between Flatt and Scruggs and Bill Monroe, but they eventually got over it. And in 1949 and 50, they recorded for Mercury Records, and this was one of the big hits, one of the great bluegrass standards, Salty Dog. Thank you, folks. So we have our little instructional lesson here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a tune that is, it was the theme for Bonnie and Clyde, and a lot of you folks know this tune. It's really Earl Scruggs' signature tune, and it's called Foggy Mountain Breakdown. We have a few Foggy Mountain Breakdown fans here. We're about to play it for you, but it's a little known fact that I found this recording. We all thought that Earl Scruggs wrote it, but it was actually written by the bass player with Flatt and Scruggs, Jake Tulloch, cousin Jake Tulloch. He wrote it on the bass, and we had this very obscure recording of him teaching it to Earl Scruggs from the bass, playing it measure by measure. We'd like to recreate that for you right now. If you're ready. I'm ready. Are you guys ready? All right. This is really obscure, hidden bluegrass knowledge. You're really the first to hear of it, actually. Okay, here we go. Wait, how's this go?
Well, I'm about to show you. Here we go.
All right.
Close enough.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see.
Let's do Earl's breakdown. Yeah. Earl's?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, let's do Earl's breakdown. Well, one of the other things that Earl gave to the banjo world was tuners. These special tuners where you could detune the banjo in the middle of a tune. And they had the really creative name of Scruggs pegs. And I once was having dinner with Earl and his son Gary, and Gary said, "Dad, tell Tony how you came up with the Scruggs pegs." And Earl said he had it in a dream. He dreamed that he was detuning the banjo. I wish I had dreams like that. And so he recorded this tune, Earl's Breakdown, and before he invented the pegs, he would just detune it by ear, like that. And they did a take of the tune in the studio with Lester Flatt and Earl and the band. And Earl played it perfectly, but the fiddle player wasn't happy with his break.
What?
It's always the fiddle player. Anyway, So they recorded it a second time. They did a second take on the tune. Earl wasn't that happy with his tuning because he was doing it by ear and he didn't quite getting all the way back. It would have sounded like that. So he wasn't too happy. And so the next day he calls up the engineer and says, let's do the first take because the second take I didn't do so well with. And the engineer said, we recorded over the first take. We only have the second take. So is the fiddle player. Anyway, this is one called Earl's Breakdown. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Let's have a hand for Jennifer over here doing such a wonderful, wonderful job of signing. So Flat and Scruggs were sponsored for many years and had a bus bought for them by the Martha White Flour Company. How many of you bake right with Martha White? Any of you? It's more of a southern thing than a northern thing, but there's a line in it where they say that the leavening ingredient in Martha White is hot rise, and if some of you are bluegrass fans, there's a band called Hot Rise named after the Martha White ingredient. And Flat and Scruggs really wanted to get on the Grand Ole Opry, but they never could because back in those days, back in the earlier 50s, you had to have every single member of the Grand Ole Opry, okay, you're getting on the Opry. And year after year, they kept getting voted down by one person. If one person voted them down, they wouldn't get on. And it turned out it was Bill Monroe who was voting them down because he was still miffed that they had left his band. But Martha White, the president of Martha White, finally went to the Grand Ole Opry folks and said, we're giving you $1 million worth of business every year. You better get Flat and Scruggs on the Opry or we're rescinding our funding. So they got on the Opry. Thank you, Martha White Flour. And so there's a really famous recording of Flat and Scruggs at Carnegie Hall from 1963, and they do the Martha White theme there, and we're going to recreate it for you right now.
1, 2, 3.
Well, you bake right, Martha White.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodness gracious, good and light, Martha White.
Martha White.
You make better biscuits, cakes, and pies. Martha White, silk fries and flour, that one all-purpose flour. Martha White, silk fries and flour's got hot rise. Well, you bake bread or biscuits, cakes and pies. Martha White, silk fries and flour, that one all-purpose flour. Martha White, silk fries and flour's got hot rise. Oh boy.
Well, somewhere around that same time, Flat and Scruggs were invited to record the theme song for a television show called the Beverly Hillbillies. Perhaps you remember that show, some of you of a certain age. And Jethro, right, we have a Jethro fan out there, Jethro Bodine. And Flat and Scruggs actually appeared on the show on a number of occasions, and a lot of people got excited about playing the banjo once they heard that theme song and started playing the banjo, one of whom was a young gentleman named Bela Fleck, if you're familiar with him. Yeah. So we're going to do this very ballad of Jed Clampett for you, and please sing along. And I actually found out recently after doing deep research that there's a fourth verse to it, the little-known fourth verse, but we're not going to do it for you tonight. I don't even know it. I'm sorry. I apologize to each and every one of you. But please do sing along. All right? 1, 2, 3. Listen to my story about a man named Jed. Sing along. Barely kept his family fed. Then one day he was shooting at some food, and up from the ground came a bubbling crude. Now the next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. The kid folks said, "Hey, away from there!" Said California is the place you ought to be. And the Beverly Hills, that is, swimming pools, movie stars. Now it's time to say goodbye to Jed and all his kin. They were like, "Thank you, kindly dropping in. You're all invited back next week to this locality to have a heaping helping of their hospitality." Beverly Hillbillies, that's what they call them now. Nice folks. Y'all come back here. Thank you. How many of you were singing along on the third verse? Let's hear it for you third versers. That's the hard one. Most people know the first two. Yeah, thank you. You guys are the best. That's not easy to do. Another thing that Earl and the bass player who taught him Foggy Mountain Breakdown, Jake Tulloch, would do was a bass banjo duet, and we're going to kind of recreate that with Mr. Let's have another hand for Jared Engel here for doing such a great job slapping that stand-up bass. And one of the tunes they would do is "Can't Stop Me From Dreaming." Give me 10 minutes. I just have to get in tune, please. Talk amongst yourselves. How do you like the tuning so far? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That really is how Earl Scruggs ended that. And I wondered, why the heck did he do that? And I realized it's because Okay, I get the idea. Yeah. He was imitating the bass. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so when Flatt and Scruggs broke up in 1968, shortly thereafter, Earl recorded an album called Nashville's Rockin'. On the back cover, he's standing in front of a whole bank of Fender amps, and they're doing things like Hey Jude and tunes like that. Lester Flatt, on the other hand, put out an album, very straight bluegrass, and one of the songs on there was I Can't Tell the Boys from the Girls. So you can see they were sort of going on a divergent path at this point. And friends, it's really messing up my world. They all wear long hair and bouncy curls, and I can't tell the boys from the girls. And one of the things that rang the death knell for Flatt and Scruggs in 1968, for their partnership, which had lasted since 1949, and earlier when they were with Bill Monroe, was this next tune that's written by Bob Dylan. This is another sing-along, folks, if you won't be offended, that is. It's called Rainy Day Women 12 and 35. You'll know the line to sing along on.
Trying to be so good, they'll stone you just like they say they would. They'll stone you when you're trying to go home. They'll stone you when you're there all alone. Would not feel so long alone. Everybody must get stoned. They'll stone you when you're walking on the street. They'll stone you when you're trying to keep your seat. They'll stone you when you're walking on the floor. They'll stone you when you're walking to the door. Would not feel so all alone. Everybody must get stoned. Back again. They'll stone you when you're riding in your car. They'll stone you when you're playing your guitar. And I would not feel so all alone. Everybody must get stoned. They'll stone you when you walk alone. They'll stone you when you are walking home. They'll stone you and say you are brave. They'll stone you and set you down in your grave. Would not be so all alone. Everybody must get stoned.
Well done, folks. Thank you.
I can only imagine how confused Lester Flatt must have felt singing that song. But
Yeah, let's do the old. Let's do Casey Jones.
all right.
Yeah. So I'm in the midst of recording a new album. I got a hold of these recordings of Earl Scruggs and John Hartford jamming at John Hartford's house, and I came to about 200 or 250 tunes where Earl played all these tunes that we'd never heard him play before. And I started transcribing, writing down these tunes and learning their solos note for note, and decided I might as well record some of these things. So I have about 20 songs towards a new recording, and I've got some folks like Billy Strings and Vince Gill and Molly Tuttle on there, amongst others, and a couple of the guys up here on stage as well. So This will be coming out hopefully next January in time for Earl's birthday. And we're going to do one of the tunes from the album that Earl and John Hartford recorded in these jams. And it's a train song that my parents used to sing to me when I was a kid in Syracuse, New York. And it's Casey Jones.
One, two, three.
If you want to hear a story about a brave engineer, Casey Jones was a roller's name, and an 8-wheel driver he rolled to fame. The caller called Casey about 4:30, kissed his wife at the station door, climbed in the cab with the orders in his hand, said this is a trip to the promised land. Casey Jones climbed in the cabin, Casey Jones, orders in his hand, Casey Jones leaning out the window, taking a trip to the promised land. Dead on the rails was the passenger train. Blood was a-boiling in Casey's brain. Engineer said, look out ahead, sim dump, or I'll be dead. With a hand on the whistle and a hand on the brake, North Mississippi was wide awake. The I.C. railroad official said it's a good engineer to be laying dead. Casey Jones climbed in the cabin. Casey Jones, orders in his hand. Casey Jones leaning out the window, taking a trip to the promised.
Thanks a lot. All right, well, another tune that they did was John Hartford's Gentle on My Mind, and we're going to do it for you right now. I had the great pleasure of going down to Nashville and having Billy Strings record on this particular tune. And it's got lots of words. Michael's got to do all this memorization. And Jennifer has a lot of work to do on this tune as well. I think she's up to it, though. I meant to mention this at the beginning. Let's have another hand for Lucy Kaplansky, who did such an amazing set, that last set. So amazing. We used to see a lot more of each other in New York and elsewhere many, many years ago, so it's really a huge pleasure to see her again and just love her music. So here's a little bit of John Hartford's Gentle on My Mind.
It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. That makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. And it's not knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, or the ink stains that line the calls of minds. That keeps you in the rivers by the back roads of my memory. It keeps you ever gentle on my mind. Rocks and ivy planted on the columns now that bind me, or something that somebody said because they thought we fit together walking. It's just knowing that the world will not be picked or forgiven when I walk along some railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory. For hours you're just gentle on my mind. And the clotheslines and the living jars and the highways come between us. And some other woman's crying cause her mother cause it turned and I was gone. I still might run in silence, tears of joy to spill my face, and the winter sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads, where the river is flowing gentle on my mind. Back from some Kirkle, Cock and Condren and some train yard. My beard a rough and cold piled and a dirty hat thrown low upon my face. Through cupped hands round a tin can, I pretend you holding to my breast and find that you're waving from the back roads by the rivers of my memory, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.
Thank you. We're going to do one more tune for you folks right now. Unless you want to do 1 second. We're going to figure out what we're going to do. Don't go away. We're going to change gears and not do a Flat and Scruggs tune right now. But it's a tune that I wrote for the fiddle. Thank you. And I happened to see a video of a gentleman named D. Ford Bailey, who was the first African-American to appear on the Grand Ole Opry, an amazing, amazing harmonica player. And he did a tune called Fox Chase, and it was so inspiring that I wrote my own Fox Chase with way too many words, because banjo players have a lot of finger movement, so the words are very verbose. And I feel sorry for Jennifer, because she doesn't have this. She's going to have to scramble to come up with all these lyrics, but she can do it. Here's Fox Chase, and thanks again, folks. Big hand for the folks on sound, all the volunteers, and thank you for listening. We've had a blast playing for you all. Enjoy the rest of the festival.
On the run, he's got the hunter and I got the gun. With the hound that's box, you're about to fall. It's sure why be hanging on the wall. The hound with the box man I've been in. Fast start streaming, stuck his swim. Set your nose to the wind. If you want to keep your skin, sun right down and the hunter is slow. And the moon went down. That's the last song, the fox and the hound.
Thanks again, folks. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Take care. Thank you. Another hand for Jennifer over here. Thanks, Jennifer.
That's Tony Trischka's Earl Jam.